I'm Kevin Casey. I'm a professional mixed martial arts fighter. And right now what I'm about to do is issue a warning out to all other competitors.
I like my money. I'm kind of pro-gun.
I don't want overs. I just expect them to happen.
Fatty's gonna fatty is real.
He is terrible!
I want to go quick because I don't give a fuck about anything that's going to happen on Saturday.
Welcome to this week's edition of the MMA Analysis podcast. I'm your host, Brad Taschuk. Joining me, as always, Jay Primetown. Jay, how's it going?
Doing pretty well. It was fun to do the Fight Companion again for the Strikeator card and all the wackiness and goofiness that was. Looks like we're a little short-handed this week. It looks like New Sean is trying to do, his weird version of Canadian bacon by coming over here and going all chaos on us.
Yeah. There's going to be all of the weed consumed. All of the weed this week.
Canadian Eddie Bravo.
Yeah. And as Jay alluded to, this is probably going to be the express edition of the MMA Analysis, so hop aboard the MMA Anal Express this week with us, folks, and our other co-host is Wes Colvin. Wes, how's it going?
Yeah, doing good, man. Just sitting here watching the game, trying not to shout out a bunch of the gods and everybody's special and, everything else. Yeah, like Jay said, last Saturday, I believe was it a Saturday?
Yep.
Yeah, yes. Saturday, yeah. I had a blast doing the Fight Companion again, man. It seems like our little small circle of degenerate gamblers on Twitter seems to enjoy it a little bit, so hopefully can do some more of those in the future, man.
Absolutely. We've had fun doing them, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed them. But today we are covering UFC on Fox 23, because it's been, I guess it hasn't been that long since there's been a card, but we're not going to do a recap this week. We're just going to hop into the first word real quick and then move on to the breakdown. So, first of all, Jay, quick thoughts on the Bellator card as a whole. Other than Tito, what performances stood out to you?
I guess Paul Daly's knockout obviously was certainly special. Nice to see him kind of turn back the clock a bit. I thought Emmanuel Sanchez, he definitely showed he belongs with kind of that upper tier of featherweights, which is clearly Bellator's best division at this point, and I think is actually, it's a pretty nice grouping of fighters they got there. Obviously some of their divisions are rather weak, but that division in particular, you could say maybe 4 or 5 of those guys would be, at least fringe top 15 guys in the world.
Yeah, it's definitely their best division. Their lighter weights are where Bellator is actually pretty decent. So, and they seem to put somewhat decent matches together for those divisions, which is kind of nice to see. Everything's always a little bit more competitive there than when you get up to the usual Bellator shenanigans. Wes, your thoughts on Bellator?
Yeah, well, first off, how is it in this day and age that you got a stream on and they missed the Jack May fight? Like, nobody got to see Jack May kill a man. When the stream started, they literally had no sound, like no commentators. They was just showing the first fight. Then after the Tito fight, there was like 4 other fights still left, like dark matches that they never showed. If you want to get people watching your product and stuff, there's degenerates like us that want to see all the fights and want to see them enough that we'll bitch a little bit about you not streaming them on your site. So kind of get that shit together, just to go along with your not showing fights live overseas and shit. It's like Bellator just does some of the dumbest shit you can ever imagine. As far as the fights, man, Paul Daly, that was just incredible, man. The picture of Brendan Ward afterwards with that gash on the side of his head and stuff was just, crazy, man. That's one of the best flying knees that that I think we've seen in a while. I'm with Jay. Emmanuel Sanchez is a really good fighter, man, and a guy that I think I've talked about before. You want your money on in a fight, man. The guy always comes forward, always on the ground, goes for position over trying to do dumb shit, control. So, yeah, a guy you want your money on. The Cotto and Gracie fight, they should cut both of those guys or make Cotto fight kickboxing for the rest of his life. That was just terrible. One of the worst fights I've ever seen. And then, yeah, man, Tito Chill, like, I think they said that pulled 1.8 million viewers. So it's like, I guess we see that people still want to see, like, name guys and guys that we all know, even though they're on the back end of their careers and shit. People want to still see them names on TV, I guess, because that's a really, really good number for a MMA card. And to all the people saying that was a fixed fight and Chael wasn't in no choking test, like, shut up. Just quit. You just hate Bellator. Just admit it. That's got to be the only way you're saying dumb shit like that is you're a UFC mark, and anything that Bellator does, you're going to shit on and bitch about because that wasn't a fake fight. Chael is who Chael's always been. He got put in a bad spot, and he was looking for the tap. I mean, immediately. That's what he's done his entire career is found the way out when he got put in a tough spot. I rewatched our fight campaign, and I think a couple of us are saying, "Oh shit,
turning purple."
He's turning fucking purple." Yeah, he that wasn't a fake choke and a fake tap. Just shut up. Just you're a UFC mark, and you're gonna shit on anything Bellator does. So just quit that shit. It's so stupid.
Well, Wes, didn't you see earlier the sequence where Chael was trying to lock up the anaconda choke and Tito tapped nothing, but somehow Chael knew that was the signal?
Yeah,
it's the signal, man.
Yeah, it's the MMA Zapruder film going around. You know, it's like he's tapping his own glass. That's what I'm saying. There's literally people out there looking for this shit that are making videos looking for this stuff. That's just ridiculous, man. And on that, he tapped his own fucking glove. He wasn't tapping him, telling him to switch it up. Just stop, man. That shit is just hilarious, dude.
Yeah. The people that have come up with shit like that, you know that they've never done anything, like, grappling-wise. Like, you know, sometimes you're just looking for a place to post your arm or get a position to try and base out to actually get out of something. Like, they have no fucking clue. It's absolutely ridiculous. But whatever. We'll move on from that. Next up, announced earlier today, it seems like Stipe is going to be defending his title against Stipe. No, he's not going to be defending against himself. He's going to be defending against Jay. You're an I pick for heavyweight champion come the end of 2017. JDS. This is our shot, Jay. Prediction's going to come true. JDS is going to be champ.
This is without a doubt our shot. And yeah, I think it was the fight to make at this point in time. I think you do the Kane Verdum match as kind of a number one contender fight for the next guy in line, and then you do this fight, as the title fight. I think this fight was intriguing the first time. I think it's one of the more underrated fights in MMA, and specifically heavyweight MMA over the last 3, 4, 5 years. It was actually a really compelling main event when it took place. So I'd certainly like to see it happen again. And it'll be interesting to see kind of who wins.
Yeah, I think it's about time that we just stop pretending that Cain Velasquez is actually going to be able to make it to a fight and take him out of the heavyweight title picture until he proves he can go through, 2, 3 camps in a row and get a couple fights in. But until that happens, just say, you know what, these other guys are going to fight for the title. And I think JDS with the win over Stipe and the history that he has is as good a candidate as any right now. Wes, this could also open up the door for your boy, the big hog Ngannou, to sneak in there for a title shot towards the end of the year if this opens up the division a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And just going back a little bit, I think Kane is going to end up going down as one of the biggest wastes of talent the sport might ever see. Even though he was a champion and stuff, that guy's wasted so much of his career and was really one of the I don't know, one of the new breed of heavies, man. He was a special talent, man, when he was younger and healthier. But besides that, yeah, I'm with Jay on this too. It's a good fight. I think it's probably the fight that needed to be made. Verdum's, just fuck Verdum. Fuck these guys that are just like, I'm fighting, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Just shut the fuck up. They gave JDS a shot. Good for him. He probably deserves it at this point, and it's an intriguing fight, I think. I kind of favor Stipe just because I'm still not sure, what's left of JDS. I mean, still a top 2 or 3 heavy, but that's just not saying a lot anymore. So yeah, very intriguing fight, the one I think they should have made. But I think you're absolutely right. I think my boy Halgano could knock out either one of these guys, man. And the heavyweight division might get a little bit interesting towards the end of the year. I think you got a young and up and coming guy that could make some noise, man. So yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I think this year could be one of the better years in a while for the heavyweight division.
There we go. And now we're going to move on to UFC on Fox 23. Going down this Saturday on Fox from the Pepsi Center, Colorado. So it's probably a good thing that there's only one heavyweight fight on the card.
Yeah.
These guys are going to be gassing enough as it is. And we are going to kick it off the UFC Fight Pass prelims in the lightweight division. We have Jason Tall Guy Defense Gonzalez against J.C. Cottrell. Jesus Christ, Jay.
Oh, yeah. I got Cottrell D and Gonzalez D-. The reality is neither of these guys is really good. Gonzalez got obliterated in his first UFC fight against Drew Dober, and Cottrell lost the decision to Prazeres. I think he took it on short notice, and it wasn't a good performance either. But I don't see how either fighter can be a decent sized favorite in this bout. And Gonzalez was I think last time I saw minus 165, which is kind of a bit high given.
Cottrell was 165.
Oh, was he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
140 now.
Yeah, exactly. So you just based on history, there's really not much to separate these two guys, in my opinion. I mean, I just grade Cottrell a bit higher just from what I've seen on tape, but there's really, from my experience, I don't really see a need to bet this fight. There's better bets on this card.
Wes?
Yeah, there's a few fights on here that I'm kind of behind on my research this week that I'm still catching up on. This is one of them, but this is going to be a fight that I'm probably not touching whatsoever. Like Jay said, both of these guys are pretty terrible, but I think Gonzalez is just far worse, I guess. Him getting knocked out clean by Drew Dober is just, you shouldn't be getting knocked out by Drew Dober. I could see getting grinded out, TKOs and shit like that, but to get knocked out like he did against Drew Dober is not a good look. So, my pick's gonna be, Jesus Christ, Cantrell in this fight, but probably no bet.
Yeah, I'm on the same track as you guys. I like Cottrell here. I went back and watched Gonzalez's Dober fight and then a couple of his fights previous to UFC, and he just gets hit by so much. It's ridiculous. Especially in the Dober fight, you look in it, Dober throws an overhand left 3 seconds into the fight, and you're like, ooh, that landed clean. Ooh, that landed clean. And it didn't take too long for Dober to find something that put him out. So I don't know if Cottrell can do the same thing. He seemed like he threw pretty hard against Prazeres, but I don't know how much power he actually has. But I think he's going to be landing the cleaner strikes. His grappling seemed pretty decent in the Prazeres fight. That's just an absolute monster to try and grapple against, though. But I think this is a much better matchup for him. Gonzalez is one of those guys that, because he's tall, and people seem to think that if you're tall, you're automatically going to be good at MMA. People think he's going to be good, but just all of the skills aren't there, especially on the defensive side of things. So I like Cottrell. If it gets down to even money or something, I might take a shot on it, but not going to lay any juice. Next up, flyweight division, Alejandro Pantoja against Eric Shelton. Jay? Guy with the awesome name or guy with the super lame white person name, even though he's a black dude?
I got Pantoja a C- and Shelton a C. I think the biggest difference in this fight is athleticism. I think Shelton's much more athletic. And the way I see the fight is that Pantoja needs to get the fight to the ground in order to win. He's very dangerous in the submission exchanges. Transitions really well on the mat. On the feet, at times he has looked a bit lost. I mean, he does have a nice kicking game, but from a punching perspective, he does struggle. Shelton definitely hits harder. And I like his work rate. So, I mean, I slightly favor Shelton in this bout. But, I was kind of thinking that Pantoja was probably, just because of hype coming from RFA, being number one on the Tough show, I figured he was probably going to be a minus 170, minus 180 favorite in this bout, but he certainly wasn't. So, no way I can get Shelton at a decent sized dog. So, I'm out on a bet on this one.
Wes?
Yeah, I like Pantoja here. I like both of these guys on Tough. They're both really, really skilled. Think they both got futures in this division in the UFC, honestly. But I kind of disagree with Jay on Pantoja's stand up. It's not terrible for a Brazilian guy. And the one thing he is right on is Shelton does hit harder, but this is tiny dudes. I don't think he's going to knock out Pantoja here, but Pantoja comes forward and throws a lot of volume. He puts some heat on you on the feet, and then Shelton, from what I've seen, likes to take guys down a lot, and this is the last guy he wants to be on the mat with. That's how he lost his fight on Tough. He got caught, and this dude can absolutely do that. He is just unbelievable on the ground. So, I'm liking Pantoja here, and I think I'm probably going to bet him. He's sitting at he'll be even money when the reduced lines go up. So this will probably be a bet for me. I think he subs Shelton. I think Shelton gets a takedown and ends up getting caught in something. So yeah, give me Pantoja.
Yeah, I am really on the fence on this one. I can see both sides. I can see Shelton being able to get takedowns and grind him out, or I can see Shelton going for a takedown early, Pantoja getting his back, maybe not finishing it right there, but at least discouraging Shelton from shooting too much later in the fight. And then if it stays on the feet, before Pantoja became the really good grappler that he is, I remember, the first big non-Japanese flyweight fight was him and Formiga back in 2010, when this kid was still 21, 22 years old, something like that, maybe even younger than that. And at that point, he was a striker, and Formiga was the one that had to take the fight to the ground against him. So, I think that Pantoja's striking is pretty good. I think it's definitely better than Shelton's. So it's all about if he can either find something quickly on the ground to make Shelton double think, or think twice about wrestling him for the rest of the fight, or if Shelton can just get on the ground and get comfortable and use that athleticism. So really close fight for me. I kind of thought the same as Jay that Pantoja would open up as a big favorite to see. Well, not a big favorite, but a pretty decent favorite. So seeing that it's even money right now kind of threw me off. But I'm not going to bet this unless the line really moves either way. I've been flip-flopping on the pick. I think in my article I said I lean slightly towards Shelton. Really don't know what the pick is. I'm going to have to wait until a little bit later in the week to decide on this one.
They're both good. They're both really good fighters.
Exactly. Yeah, and this shows just how awesome flyweight is. Neither of these guys have fought in the UFC before, and this is the third, fourth best fight on the card?
Yeah, and that show was really loaded with talent. I mean, really, really loaded with flyweight talent, man. I think half of those guys on that show could be in the UFC fighting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Next up, we're going to move to Fox Sports 1 for another set of prelims. Kicking it off, light heavyweight division. I know we said, thank God, we don't have a lot of heavyweight fights because we're in Denver. but Marcos Rogerio de Lima is definitely going to get some gassing in there for us. Even if he finishes this fight in a minute, he'll still be gassed. He is taking on Jeremy the Pinball Kimball. Jay?
Yeah, I don't have a grade yet on Kimball, but I have Lima a D. Here's the thing with this one. With De Lima, he definitely is a heavy hitter, but if he doesn't hit you and hit you hard early, he's going to struggle in this fight. Plus, this fight is in Colorado. I think we can't forget that. I think that might play a big part in this fight, maybe more than any other. And his opponent Kimball, lives and trains in Colorado and Colorado Springs, so definitely already acclimated to altitude. So if Lima doesn't finish in the first round, I don't think he wins this bout. I'd be very surprised if he did, if he won it beyond that. So, and I'll certainly take a deeper look at Kimball, but I certainly wouldn't recommend the play on De Lima.
Yeah. So it occurred to me. I just went to Kimball's Tapology page. You guys know that Nushan is going to Colorado this weekend, right? Have you seen Kimball's picture? Have you ever seen Kimball and Nushan in the same place? Just saying. Just saying. We're on to you.
It's close.
It's mostly just the ponytail thing, Jay. He needs to grow out the beard a little bit more.
Yeah, he does, but we're on the right track.
Exactly. Wes, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with Jay. I still got to do a little more work on Kimball, but I would even go far as to say if De Lima doesn't knock him out in the first couple minutes, he's in a whole lot of trouble. I made some money on De Lima in the past, but that shit he pulled in his last fight, just, man, putting himself in guard to get choked like the way he did, I lost my mind. I had money on him in that fight, of course, so it pissed me off, but just the stupidity he showed in that fight, man, the altitude on top of it, I'm going to do a little research on Kimball, but I'm thinking real hard about betting him at this dog price. So, like I said, nothing solid yet. Pick is probably definitely going to be Kimball and Toutmaster, and want to look at a little bit of tape on Kimball first, but I'm probably going to end up betting him here.
Yeah, Kimball, he was originally a middleweight coming up, and I was like, oh, this guy's, he looks like he could drop a couple pounds of fat, and then he turned into a light heavyweight, which I was like, oh, he's going up to light heavyweight now? Like, this dude's just going to be a tub of lard, but he's actually looked pretty good since moving up to light heavyweight. He beat the legend Matty VB in 18 seconds, as you do against Matt Van Buren, and then has a couple other wins against pretty decent competitors at light heavyweight. And the thing about him is he's not overly skilled in any area, but he has the one quality that you really need to be able to beat De Lima, which is he's tough. Never been stopped by strikes. His only stoppage losses have been submissions, and I think he's going to be able to get through the first 3 minutes or so, and after that, De Lima's just going to be like, dude, I want out of here, and he's going to find a way out. So this could be a pretty interesting way to get one of those big props that I love playing, because Kimball doesn't have a lot of subs on his record. De Lima basically loves to get subbed as soon as he gets tired, so I could see like a 500-600 sub prop for Kimball that I'm probably going to take a shot on in this fight. Maybe turn it into or throw it as a leg in a prop round robin or something like that, but I think that Kimball gets it done. Next up, we have in the middleweight division, speaking of maybe not most physically imposing fighters, Eric Spicely is taking on the Italian stallion Alessio Di Chirico. Jay?
Yeah, I got Di Chirico D+, Eric Spicely a D. Spicely is a guy I've never rated highly. He definitely had one of the more shocking wins of 2016. Maybe in the top 3 or 4. I mean, right outside of Rockhold, losing to Bisping. I mean, I can't really think of a fighter that was. I mean, I think we all thought that Thiago Santos was going to decapitate Eric Spicely, but then the weird takedown, and that's how it goes. So, I mean, I think DiChirico should win this fight. Score some sort of knockout. But man, I mean, Spicely's weird. He's a kind of a weird fighter. He's long for the weight class. And if he does get you to the ground, he's got a very apt and is very game from a jiu-jitsu perspective. So, kind of a buyer beware situation. And I don't know. I think I kind of learned my lesson not to bet against Eric Spicely. So I'm going to pass.
Yeah. Luckily in that fight, I think I had Santos round 1 or something was the only thing I played, so I didn't get burned too badly. But a lot of people had Santos inside, Santos in parlays, all sorts of stuff like that. So I know a lot of people that got hit by that one. Wes, what are your thoughts on the return of Eric Spicely?
Yeah, man, that was one of my bigger losses of the entire year, was that fight. Yeah, and I'm with Jay. That's got to be one of the top 2 or 3 biggest upsets all year. I don't really care about lines, just from what everybody thought was going to happen, the total complete opposite happened. So, yeah, this is one of the fights I haven't really looked at too closely. From everything I've seen about DiCirico, it tells me he should beat Spicely. Should be able to grind out a decision here, but man, Spicely's just one guy that I don't think I can ever underestimate again in a fight, even though everything that my eyes see is telling me that he's just not that good. Probably going to go in and just pick Spicely here in Toutmaster, and that's about it. Leave this fight alone.
Yeah, for me, and on the topic of biggest upsets last year, it went Bisping Rockholds, Taimanglo Caldwell, and then Spicely Santos. Those were my top 3. As far as this fight goes, I think that DiChirico is going to be a little bit smarter than Thiago Santos is. He's going to, or was in that fight, I should say. He's going to keep it a little bit more on the outside, because Spicely really isn't a good enough athlete that he's able to close distance quickly and still manage a decent takedown attempt. He's got little tricky trips and stuff from inside the clinch, but he really struggles with closing the distance. So if DiChirico just stays on the outside, I think that he's more than capable of picking Spicely apart, and his takedown defense is good enough to stop those long outside shots. So I like DiChirico. I actually think he picks up a decision here. And then if it does hit the ground, obviously there's huge danger there, but smart game plan coupled with the skills that he has, I think it should be pretty easy for him to avoid that. Moving back to the light heavyweight division, we have Luis Henrique da Silva, better known as Frankenstein, even better known as Frank Waston, taking on Big Swingin' Johnson. No, not Rumble. Some white dude. George Johnson.
I mean, that is a great nickname.
I feel like it's false advertising, Jay. I'm not gonna lie. It might be,
but I feel like with that nickname alone, he's a friend of the show.
He's got Jordan and Johnson. Come on, dude. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a grade yet on Johnson. I got Frank Waston a D+. Is Johnson really a minus 260 favorite in this bout, Brad?
Oh, is that what he's up to already now?
I heard something like that.
Minus 225.
225, yeah.
That's pretty significant. Waston's a pretty game fighter. He faced a guy like Paul Craig in his last bout. That was a tough matchup. No doubt.
The Bear Jew.
Yeah, the Bear Jew's pretty good.
Lance's favorite fighter.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think even if you're a guy's lighting the world on fire, I mean, anytime you're making a UFC debut, to put money on someone who's a 2.5 to 1 favorite just doesn't seem like a good idea. It seems like a long-term loser, in all honesty. So I don't know. I don't get it. Like, look, I'm prepared to be surprised. Maybe he's going to be the second coming at at this weight class, but yeah, that's expensive.
Well, last week when there was a lab guy that, little juice on him.
That was against another. That was against
Noir.
Well, that was different. That was against a guy who was also a UFC, novice.
Jay, just have a little chicken parm and chill out, bro.
I'll take my seat in the corner.
You got your dunce cap on too?
And that's what you got to do.
Inside information.
It's important.
All right.
Wes, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, it's kind of curious though that Frank Waston is back like this quick. It's only 4 or 5 weeks, and he's already, back in the cage. I know he didn't get beat up or anything, but it's a pretty quick turnaround. But yeah, man, going out against the Bear Jew like that was just kind of surprising, man. Just kind of a little surprised by that, the outcome of that fight. I think Paul Craig's decent, but that was just a very underwhelming performance. I just don't know enough about Johnson to have any money on him here. And like Jay said, 2-1 fave in his UFC debut against a decent guy. It's kind of crazy these days. So yeah, I'm going to pass on a bet, but I might have to take Frank Waston and Talmaster if he keeps getting any higher than this. It's getting a little bit out of control.
For me, I've seen Jordan Johnson fight a few times. I've been pretty impressed by him, and I'm sort of back to my original stance on Frank Waston in that he sucks, but he's tough. And in a lot of cases, that's going to be enough for you to beat a lot of light heavyweights because it's such a terrible division. But Jordan Johnson, really solid grappler. I think he's going to be able to get this to the ground for all 3 rounds, stay on top, maybe even find a submission, because we saw that Frank Waston's sub game really isn't anything to write home about. And looking at some of the other results that we've seen, yeah, he subbed Christensen, but Christensen, even though he's a black belt, he wouldn't even go to the ground against Bojangles Mihalovic in his last fight. So I think that sub on paper is worth a whole lot more than it's actually worth in practice. And then you don't see a lot of guys getting subbed from top position these days in the UFC. So I don't think that Frank Waston's ground game is very good. I think that Jordan Johnson, at the very least, is going to be able to control him fairly easily. Probably more likely that he gets a submission somewhere along the way and scores a stoppage in his first UFC outing. Next up, welterweight division. Get nasty. It's Bobby Nash against Lil Jangalang. Sounds like a rap battle. Jay?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a rap battle?
Jangalang.
Yeah, Jingalang.
Lil Jangalang.
I got the Jing, the Ling, a D+. Bobby Nash, D-. Here's the thing with Nash. I mean, he's beating up cans and Midwest MMA. We know everyone, especially on this show, we talk about a lot. Midwest MMA is probably the most overrated regional circuit outside of, probably the most overrated regional circuit there is, because we know South Africa just sucks and Australia is bad. So we won't even count those, for example. But man, yeah, he's got poor takedown defense, and he's really not a natural finisher. Jing Liang is probably the best, fighter we've seen come from China in the modern era to the UFC. He's pretty strong for the weight class. I mean, he's capable of pushing fighters against the cage. He can even work in a couple takedowns. He has knockout power. Is he gonna, set the world on fire? No, but he's certainly capable, and he's worthy of a place in the organization. So, I think this is going to be a tough fight for Nash, because Jingling could easily just press him against the cage and he could work in takedowns, never mind beating him up on the feet, because Nash's striking defense is awful. He doesn't move his head, and he's very hittable. So, Jingling wins, and he's worthy of a bet, either in parlays or even straight up.
Wesley?
Yeah, Jay over there talking bad about the home country of Trevor Prangley. Might want to start watching it.
Oof.
Yeah,
what was the fight where it was Trevor Prangley? I think it was Trevor Prangley and Joe Dirksen. So South African Trevor Prangley, Canadian Joe Dirksen, and the fans were chanting USA, USA. I think it was like UFC 56 or something.
Where was it?
Vegas.
Oh, it is Vegas. You know. I'm not going to go there. Not known for their public education system there.
I assume it was our buddy Chase. He started the chant. Wes, what do you got here?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Jay on all this. I think Jangalane's going to knock him out, actually. This dude is... It ain't even regional circuit, some of this shit, man. He's fighting at GKO and fucking HFC, Hoosier Fighting... Come on, man. Like...
Hoosier Fighting Championship.
Yeah, I mean...
Fighting Championship.
Who's your daddy?
Yeah, dude, they're pulling guys out of Waffle Houses and shit for this dude to knock out, man. Yeah, I just think that even though Jangalane's not some world beater, you know, top 10 guy or something, he's a level above Bobby Nash, dude. So, yeah, I was kind of, you know, gonna probably pass when I missed the opening line and it creeped up over 2-1, but for some reason people's hammering Bobby Nash now. I have no idea why. So Jangalane's back down to minus 140, and he'll definitely be a bet for me.
Yeah, I definitely like Lil Jangalang in this one as well. Nash, I kind of have an opposite opinion of Nash than Jay. I think that the only thing that he's good at is finishing, and you know, looking at some of his previous fights, he's lost rounds to some fighters who really aren't very good, and then, you know, because he's got power, he's been able to clip them and score a finish, but that's really all that he's capable of doing. And you look at Lee, and he's a guy that's never been finished by strikes, which is what Nash pretty much goes to all the time. So, if this guy is a round-losing fighter who needs a big shot to be able to finish you, and he's facing a round-winning fighter who is really, really durable, that's just a bad recipe. And, you know, all of that on top of it being your UFC debut, I do not think this is going to go very well for Bobby Nash. I put... At the time, it was the limit. It's opened up a little bit more now, but 2.5 units, or 2.5 units on Jangalang, and he is also going to be the 5dimes.eu MMA Analysis Consensus Bet of the Week. You can still get it at minus 140 over at 5dimes.eu, along with all the other lines for UFC on Fox 23, and as it gets a little bit closer to fight time, full props, all that good stuff over at 5dimes. Go check it out. Next up, we are in the bantamweight division. Awesome fight. I would say second best fight on the card. Maybe even the best fight on the card. Depends on your stance for that sort of thing. But bantamweight division, Rafael Assunção taking on Jay's boy, Aljamain Sterling. Jay, you picking your boy?
I got Assunção an A-, Aljamain Sterling at B+. This is a really tricky fight for me to call.
You overrate Assunção. Or you overrate Sterling, sorry.
You think so?
Yeah, you give him like the New York bump.
Okay, maybe. Here's the thing with this fight. I think Assunção is a really good fighter. He's a tough nut to crack. He's really well rounded. And the problem for Sterling is that I don't know if he's going to be able to take Assunção down, and if he doesn't, he's going to really struggle in this bout. Unless, since the last time we saw him, several months ago, his striking, vastly improved. He is a really athletic guy, so movement, and he certainly has been lifting weight, so it could added some power into his striking. But his striking, to me, from what I've seen so far in his career, is not good enough to be an elite fighter. I mean, then again, there are fighters who are elite, like a Maya, like a Habib, who've have proven to be elite without, having, a really, a strong striking game. So certainly possible. But, we just saw in his last fight that Caraway kind of, was able to find ways to beat him. It didn't even have to deal with the striking. So, like I said, either way, I think Asuncao was able to stuff the takedowns, and I think that's enough to win. He might get taken down in one round, but I don't think he gets taken down in 2 of the 3 rounds and controlled that way. So, just like Asuncao in the Caraway fight, Caraway had so much trouble taking Asuncao down, was basically forced to fight on the feet, and he had really no chance to win there. So, I think it kind of goes along that route, and Asuncao wins. But, maybe the homer in me, maybe just, maybe I'm just kind of hopeful that Sterling wins, so I'm not going to bet it. But I think there's probably value in Asuncao, given the line. In all honesty,
Wesley.
Yeah, I'm with Jay a lot on this one too. I think this is a pretty bad matchup for Aljo, and I've been one of his biggest fans early here in his career. Really expected a lot more from him, but I think he has been thrown in pretty deep early in his career. But I'm not seeing the improvements in areas that he's going to need to improve in to beat a guy like Asuncao and the other top dudes in this division. His ground game is it's unbelievable, but I just don't see him taking Asuncao down at will. I mean, that guy's got unbelievable takedown defense, and then on the feet, I don't think it's close. I think Asuncao can piece Sterling up on the feet. Yeah, I just think this is a bad matchup, and I'm kind of surprised at the line. I really thought that Asuncao would be closer to 2-1, minus 175, 2-1 against Sterling, but I guess it's just maybe Sterling's got a little bit of a name now. Maybe not by winning fights, but he's out there on social media and stuff a lot. So, but yeah, just bad matchup in my opinion, and I'll be betting Asuncao here for sure.
Yeah, I like Asuncao here as well. I know Jay said that there are guys who can be top fighters in the UFC by just being elite at one thing. Like Demian Maia, like guys like that. Aljo just got out-grappled by Brian Caraway.
Yep.
Demian Maia would never get out-grappled by Brian Caraway. So, that's the difference there. He's a very good grappler, but I would say he's not even elite in the one area that's his best attribute yet. So, when you look at Rafael Asuncao, there's an exhaustive list of people that have out-grappled him, and that list reads Uriah Faber. That's it. TJ Dillashaw scored 1 takedown on him, maybe 2 takedowns on him, and that was it. But even Dillashaw couldn't really hold him down and do a ton of damage to him in those fights. He just popped right back up. So you look at Asuncao against Caraway. He was actually able to do more on the ground against Caraway than Caraway could do to him. So I think that Asuncao has an advantage in terms of the wrestling here. I think the actual submission grappling is very close. And then on the feet, there's a big difference. Asuncao, he doesn't have the highest output in the world, but very clean counter striker. I think he'll be able to land a ton on Sterling in this fight. And Sterling, he's definitely still needs to develop that striking game. That's going to be his problem for a while because his grappling isn't overly dominant. So I like Asuncao here. I think the only way he loses this fight is, he's getting up to he's going to be 35 this year. So if he's starting to hit that point where he's just turning into an old man, he might lose. But other than that, I really like Asuncao in this fight. At minus 140, I'm considering playing him. If it keeps going down, I'm definitely going to play him. If it gets back to the minus 120 opener that we saw, I'll definitely be on Asuncao in this one. So he is the pick for me. And we are going to move on to the middleweight division. Fox Sport 1 main event. Nate the Great against Sam Alvey. Jay, over under on punches thrown in the first round, 3.5.
Well, I don't know. One punch could end it too, so.
Right?
Yeah. There's that. I got Alvey a C, Marquardt a C-. I feel like this is a lot of Sam Alvey's fights, and this plays out kind of similar. Sure, Marquardt is maybe more skilled than some of the more recent guys that Alvey's faced, but Marquardt is his durability has diminished over his last few fights, and even going back a little further than that, and that's just difficult against Alvey. Alvey might be a slow starter, but he's very durable, great chin, and his ability to counter and land with power, even though it doesn't look like he has big power, he certainly is able to knock guys out with one punch. And one clean shot from Alvey is going to wobble Marquardt, and I think Alvey finishes. I like Alvey in this fight to win by knockout. I'm trying to figure out how Marquardt would win. And I think you'd have to kind of grapple him for 3 rounds to do so. But the thing is, Alvey's takedown defense is almost 90%. It's one of the best in this division. Deceptively so, in fact. So I think Alvey wins by knockout. And I would bet Alvey to do so in this fight. But the knockout line hasn't come out yet, and/or any other kind of props related to that.
Wes?
Yeah, once again, I'm pretty much with Jay here. I think Nate's probably only chance to win this fight is to knock Alvey out, and it doesn't happen. Alvey's not tandem McCourty. He's got a fucking steel chin on him. Jay's also right. Nate's going to be by far probably the most skilled guy that Alvey's fought in a while, but it's just not the same Marquardt, and just any strong, clean punch just damages Marquardt nowadays. So you got to go Alvey here. One thing that I'm looking at though, because I think you're right when you started off the over under 3.5 punches in the first round, and it could very well go under. So I'm kind of looking at the over. Alvey literally for usually every first round does almost absolutely nothing. And Nate's just about the same way now, so really considering the over 1.5. Was hoping it'd be a little closer to even money, wouldn't have as much juice on it, but I could really see that happening. Although, one punch from Alvey could knock out Nate. He never throws enough to have me worrying that much about it in the first round. So with it being a 1.5 total, really considering the over in this fight. But yeah, the pick is going to be Alvey, and interested in the KO line as well, but just don't know if it's going to be that much of a difference as far as the line goes, because I would think that's how most people think Alvey won this fight, is by knockout. So, but Alvey's the pick, and considering the over.
Yeah, I could actually see Nate Marquardt winning this fight, but he has to basically do what Elias Theodorou did when he fought Sam Alvey, which is get into the clinch and wear him down, because Alvey, he's going to be able to defend takedowns, but at the same time he's not doing anything while he's in the clinch, so he's losing all of those little moments. So Marquardt could pick up rounds that way, and then if he gets out, he just needs to be way on the outside, so he's not getting clipped by Alvey and obviously getting knocked out. So I could see Marquardt winning that way. Just at this point, I don't think that he would be able to do that for 15 minutes. I certainly don't think he'd be able to do it for 15 rounds either. I guess with this fight, I'm probably going to pick Alvey, even though I do see that path to victory from Marquardt. But I like what Wes was saying about the over 1.5. I think that Marquardt can grind for a little bit, but at some point in the second or third round, Alvey's going to catch him either on the way in, or Marquardt's going to start throwing a little bit too much in exchanges with Alvey. He'll get clipped and put away, but Alvey's going to be the pick. I'm not nearly as confident in it as I see a lot of people being, just because I do think there's a pretty significant talent gap in this fight. but he's still going to be the pick for me. Next up, moving to the main card, we're going to kick it off with the featherweight fight between Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, and Wes's cousin, Jason Knight. Jay?
They are related, aren't they?
Oh, fuck.
Isn't everybody from down there?
That's what I thought. They look alike, right? White bread?
Yep.
Yeah. Understandable. I got both these guys a C-. This is an interesting fight to me. Because I think from a skill perspective, Caceres is definitely more talented, especially in the, he just has more variety. But I mean, the thing with Knight is, I mean, we kind of thought he was just a submission guy off his back, rubber guard Royale. But man, he hits. He's super volume heavy on the feet. He continues to press forward. He doesn't let you breathe. It's just a nightmare kind of matchup for a lot of these guys. And I think he's super game. While Caceres, I think, is a little bit flaky. He'll have a good performance, and then he'll kind of follow it up with like kind of a boneheaded performance. So, Caceres is definitely kind of a buyer beware kind of a guy. I just think Knight's volume kind of wins him a fight in a rather close contest, but I can't bet it. This is definitely one to watch, and I think should be fairly entertaining.
Wes?
Yeah, this fight should be like all kinds of fun. I would think, man. I'm really torn on this fight still. I don't. Right now, I'm kind of leaning Caceres. Knight just gets hit like a whole lot. He got just hit time after time by Hooker. Caceres doesn't have the biggest power, so I don't think you got to worry about Caceres knocking him out or anything. But he's going to get hit in this fight, and I think if it does go to the ground, I think Caceres has got a little bit of an advantage there. But Knight's going to be coming forward, kind of almost how Yair was in Caceres' last fight. I think he's going to be feeling pressure, but he dealt with it fairly well against Yair. I thought he showed up in that fight and had a pretty good performance, even though he lost. But I could see Knight kind of doing the same thing. A lot of pressure. We know he's going to throw a lot of strikes. But just Caceres being a dog here, I like Knight. He was one of my picks as got to watch out this year on our year-end show, but I just think he's in kind of tough here. I think Caceres is just the better all-around fighter, and if Caceres fights smart here, I think he could take a decision. So my pick's going to be Caceres. I don't think I can bet it, even though that plus money is calling to me a little bit.
Yeah, for me, this is another really close fight. I think this has some potential to steal the fight of the night away from like Cerrone and Masvidal, which I'm guessing is most people's favorite for that award. What it comes down to for me is that Knight's wrestling looked a lot better in the Hooker fight than I had previously seen it, and I think that's going to be the difference here against Caceres. On the feet, Caceres is a little bit longer. I think he can keep up pretty well with Knight's pace and be more accurate while doing it. So I think Caceres has the slight edge on the feet. I just think that Knight's going to be on top for enough of this fight, even though they're probably going to be scrambling around. He's going to be looking for subs, that he'll probably score a decision. Or the other thing is, we know that Caceres basically always has at least one or two moments in fights where even if he's winning, he tries to give the fight away. We saw it even in a fairly dominant performance against Cole Miller. He still had that moment in the third where Miller had his back and almost locked in the sub. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Knight be able to wrap up a sub here either. So he's going to be my pick, but don't want to lay the juice in this spot because I think it's going to be a very close competitive fight if he doesn't manage to get that stoppage. Next up, heavyweight division. Andrei Arlovsky, former heavyweight champ, taking on Francis Ngannou. Jay?
Yeah, I got Ngannou a B-, and Arlovsky a C. The reason Ngannou is potentially not higher is because he hasn't proven he could beat anybody worthwhile yet. This is his first opportunity to really do so. And I think the UFC booked this fight to set him up to get a win. I mean, Arlovsky's chin is certainly not what it used to be. And Ngannou is certainly, a physical specimen, to say the least. I think Arlovsky's in big here. Like I said, UFC wants Ngannou to win. They want a big victory, and they can be pushed to the heavens. That's the goal, is to develop a new heavyweight contender. I think Ngannou wins by knockout, and the hype train really gets into gear. And I have a bet of Ngannou with Li Jingliang. So I think if you get that now, it'll be like minus 140 plus the Ngannou. You get plus money on that, so pretty good value there.
If you got it right now, it would be plus 112. Wes?
Yep.
Yeah, this is fairly easy for me. It's Ngannou by KO. He's gonna completely destroy Arlovsky in this fight. I truly believe that dude's gonna be the heavyweight champion. Might not be this year, but it's going to happen in the future. The division's getting old, and this guy's just, man, he's a murderer, man. Was even impressed in his last fight, that just to roll off the mat and stuff, to get up from that takedown was just, you just see little glimpses of stuff that just make you think this guy could be really, really good. So, yeah, Ngannou by KO for me.
I know Ngannou hit like a standing Kimura to finish that fight, but has he ever won a fight with a straight ankle lock, Wes? No, he has not. Arlovsky going to drop that ass and lock on the straight ankle lock. That's going to be all she wrote in this one.
Oh, it's pretty good.
Or, more likely, Ngannou's going to land something massive and put Arlovsky out. And, we're going to start to hear the calls of Arlovsky to retire, and I think they might actually be a little bit apt at this point. He came back to the UFC. He had that little run where he got pretty close to a title shot. It was cool, and then he started fighting, really top competition again, and started getting knocked out again. And I think that's what we're going to see happen one more time. So, unfortunately for the Pitbull, going with the Frenchman here. Check on the 2.0.
Was the anniversary a couple days ago of the Fedor Scud missile knockout of Arlovsky and Affliction? Man. One of the best knockouts ever. Yeah, that was one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. Yeah. Incredible.
That was Affliction. What a time! What a time to be alive.
It was a great show. That show was great.
Yes, it was. That whole promotion was just something else. And the way it ended was just like full MMA. You don't get more MMA than Josh Barnett popping for roids to cancel your main event and bankrupt your promotion. Like, that is just...
And now one of the promoters being the President of the United States. Pretty cool.
Maybe Oscar De La Hoya is going to be the president next.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, I would not doubt it.
Alright, moving up, co-main event, welterweight division. Donald Cerrone, Jorge Masvidal. Just two dudes who are like, you know what, I don't want to cut weight anymore. And now they're awesome. So, Jay?
Yeah, I'm with you, Brad. I got Cerrone a B+, Masvidal a B. These definitely are two of the more, rare instances where a guy is better at the heavier weight class than they were at the lighter one. I guess you could kind of say the same for Kelvin Gastelum, and I'm not sure if you can say the same for John Lineker, but, I guess that's kind of an even thing at this point, so that's to be decided at a later date. This fight's interesting to me because Masvidal is really durable. Cerrone has, proven to be a finisher in his career. But, I think the most likely thing here is this fight goes to the scorecards, which I have parlayed with Li Jingliang, which I already bet, so I got those two parlays going. I see the over 2.5 happening here because Masvidal, I think, has been finished once since 2009. So really a tough guy to finish, and Masvidal is really not a finisher himself. The fight tends to go to scorecards. But the reason I like Donald Cerrone in this fight is because of his ability to press forward. Masvidal's, has had his least success in the highest levels of UFC and Strikeforce when he's facing a guy that's volume heavy and presses forward, kind of like when he fought Lorenz Larkin last year. And Cerrone's kind of the same way in his approach, presses forward, action heavy, volume heavy. So Masvidal's going to be on the back foot, and we know how the judges like guys who are pressing forward. So I think Donald Cerrone gets the nod in Colorado and wins at least 2 of the 3 rounds to get the W.
Wes?
Did you see the DM that I put in our chat that they're still using the old rules in Colorado this week, and also Las Vegas has not adopted the new rules either. They're sticking with the old rules. So that's a complete shit show, dude.
Yep.
Terrible. Yeah, with this, man, even before this fight, but I think Cowboy is getting close to like legendary status in this game. I mean, this dude has like had so many fights against every guy. Go up and down the list of the top 10, 15, and Cowboys fought him. Dude never turns down fights. Always there to fight. I think they said he can tie the wins record and the finish record this weekend if he finishes Masvidal and gets a win. That's just, it's pretty incredible to me. But as far as this fight, Cowboy's going to win a split decision. It happens every time Masvidal fights a guy this caliber, and a guy like Jay says actually throws punches. Masvidal he doesn't do enough in fights. And this is the last guy that you can't not have output against, because Cowboy's going to be coming and throwing. Although I do think Jay's right that Masvidal does do pretty well when guys are coming at him. He's a really good counterpuncher, but Cowboy's just long and stays on the end of his punches. So I think that's just going to be too much for Masvidal here. Masvidal he'll still one of these rounds where Cowboy just doesn't, he takes a little bit of a round off. But this has Cowboy split decision written all over it.
Yeah, I lean towards Cowboy in this fight as well. I just think that if you're not walking forward and forcing Cowboy to fight off the back foot, which is something that he's gotten much better at over the past couple of years as well, if you're not doing that to him and he's able to control the fight and fight at his pace, it doesn't matter how good you are as a counter striker, you're probably going to lose that fight, because he's just so good at mixing it up with punches, kicks, different levels, throwing it all together in the same combination, that as good as you are on the counter, there's no way that you can stop everything from getting through. And Masvidal is one of the best counter fighters in MMA, but his style, unless he comes out and just goes completely against what he normally does and is trying to pressure Cerrone from the get-go, I don't think his style matches up very well with Cerrone. And even if Masvidal does come out and really puts pressure on Cerrone, he's one of those guys that he's got excellent takedown defense when he's against the cage, some of the best in MMA. But I think when he's pushing forward, I think Cerrone's going to be able to hit that new counter takedown that he's got. Or even if Cerrone gets into the clinch, he's got some pretty good trips once he gets there. So I think Cerrone can get this fight to the ground. And Masvidal, good on the ground, probably underrated on the ground, but he's nowhere near Cerrone on the ground. So I like Cerrone in this fight. Unless Masvidal is able to push him forward and back him up against the cage and really get Cerrone just stuck there, I think that's his only way to win the fight, and I just can't see that happening with this new Donald Cerrone that we've seen. So I like Cerrone. Hoping that some money's going to come in on Masvidal and bring it back down. I know just after it opened, it almost got to even. I think it was at like minus 115, but I doubt that's going to happen. I think Cerrone's probably going to stick around this minus 160, minus 170 range right up until fight time, and that means I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the fight. Finally, main event, like the 5th or 6th best fight on the card, women's bantamweight division, Valentina Shevchenko, Juliana Pena. Jay, why do they keep doing this to us?
I think honestly, I'm not even going to try to be sarcastic on this one. I think they see that there's growth value in the women. There must be something in the audience numbers to suggest to keep doing these. I think they thought Holly Holm was a needle mover for whatever reason. I don't know. That's my guess. Other than that, there's a number one contender fight, which I guess is.
It's not. It's not a particularly bad fight. It's just I look at this fight and I'm just like, cool. It's a fight.
Or Dana tap Panay and owes her a main event slot.
He wishes.
I'd probably go that route.
I mean, it's kind of nice that we actually have a legitimate number one contenders fight, because all we're talking about is interim belts and doing interim fights, which are basically number one contender fights. So
maybe the winner of this fight will be the interim bantamweight champion after Amanda Nunes goes up to 145 to fight for the featherweight title.
I mean, you never know. But yeah, I got Shevchenko an A, Pena an A minus. I think Shevchenko at this point is the best striker in this weight class. I think she showed that in the fight against Holm, who was considered the best striker prior to that. The only concern is because, Pena's been able to take down almost every fighter she's faced in the UFC. The Katzengano win, even though coming off a long layoff, definitely, was a pretty impressive win for her. And then, looking at Shevchenko, she was taken down the first 2 rounds against Amanda Nunes before Amanda got tired. I think Pena's got a much better gas tank than Amanda Nunes does, so could Pena score takedowns throughout this fight? Certainly possible, but I mean, you have to think that's what Shevchenko's going to be training for. I mean, that's really all she needs to be concerned about, because Pena has zero way to compete on the feet at all. And if this fight doesn't go the round, I think Pena's going to be in for a really bad night. Shevchenko was my pick to be the champion in this weight class in 2017, so it's imperative for her to win this bout. Otherwise, she's not getting the title. So that's kind of what I thought would happen. I think I see Shevchenko winning this fight and then beating Amanda Nunes later in the year after Nunes tires out and is unable to finish Shevchenko early. So Valentina Shevchenko gets the first half of that thought process done on Saturday with a win.
Wes?
Yeah, see, me still, I don't think either one of them beat Nunes, but Shevchenko definitely the better fight for her. I don't know, I never have been sold on Pena. I know she's got a couple of decent wins, but just not overly impressed with Zingano or Jessica Ai either. I just not impressed with too many of them. I gotta go Shevchenko here. I just think she keeps this up, and she just pieces Pena up on the feet for 5 rounds. I guess Pena could get a takedown here or there, but Shevchenko's ground game isn't like terrible. So yeah, that's, I don't know, just kind of my feeling. I don't have too much feeling on this fight. I'm like, Brad, why the hell do they keep doing this to us? Giving us these 5-round women fights in the main, even though this is one of the better fights they could put on. This isn't what you should have main eventing a big Fox card, in my opinion. But yeah, Shevchenko pieces her up for 5 rounds, and I think Amanda Nunes would knock out either one of them.
For me, I picked actually Pena to be the bantamweight champion at the end of 2017. Because I didn't realize this fight was happening now, as we detailed on that podcast, if you go back and listen to it. Because I figured that Shevchenko was going to fight Nunes. I actually think that she's capable of beating Nunes, and then Pena would be able to beat Shevchenko. I still think Pena is going to be able to beat Shevchenko. I think that she's going to be able to score takedowns. I really haven't been impressed with what Shevchenko's been able to do from the bottom in terms of mounting any sort of offense or getting back to her feet. So I think that if Pena is able to score takedowns or even get it to a point where she's just initiating scrambles, I think she's going to win a lot of those and win based on top position. But I think that Amanda Nunes is a pretty terrible matchup for Pena. I don't think that Pena will be able to take her down. And I think that she'll get kind of eaten up on the feet. If she's able to survive, maybe she wins, but that's getting into the future here. So basically what I'm saying is I'm kind of knowing now that my prediction for the end of the year is going to be wrong. But this fight was supposed to make that prediction right. So I'm sticking with Pena here. I think she wins a decision. Can't see her getting a stoppage, even if she's able to really get on top and do work. Late in this fight, I don't think she's going to be able to stop it. I think it's just going to be a unanimous decision for Pena. But it's going to move her into a title fight. So that's going to happen. That does it for UFC on Fox 23. It's pretty decent cards. I'll be watching.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll be doing another fight companion or anything like that for it, but should be pretty enjoyable. And we will be back with you guys next week for... Oh, I know there's something going on. It's a fight night or something that's happening the week after this.
One of the Super Bowl. One in Houston with Korean Zombie and Bermudez.
There you go. Now that's a main event.
Yeah.
Like
the return of the zombie.
Number wise, it doesn't make sense to be a main event. It shouldn't be as good a main event. But that fight's just going to be fun as hell for as long as it lasts. So I like fun fights. Sue me. Anyways, we'll see you folks next week, or maybe if you're lucky, maybe this weekend.